You finished your script and now you need a title page. What should you include? What should you not include? What can you do? We're going to talk about all of that today. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for liking if you're finding value. Subscribe if you haven't done that. Please be sure to check resources below. There's a free guide for story structure, completely free. Be sure to check that out if you want to get better at story structure. But I really appreciate you watching, so thank you for doing that. Let's not waste any more time. Let's jump in. Just like the rest of your screenplay, there are some format things that you have to be aware of on your title page. There's not that many, so this isn't going to take that long, but there are some things that you should do. So let's talk about those first. Then we'll talk about things that you should not do, and we'll talk about some things that you can do. So here we go. What are some things that you should do and should have on your title page? Well, first things first, a title. You should have one. It should be about a third of the way down the page. And if you're using screenwriting software, there should be a template in there for you to just kind of plug and play the information on the title page, which helps it make it a little bit easier. But there are some ways to kind of finesse and some other things you might want to do and some stuff that you should be aware of. Often the title is just in all caps, but I'm going to circle back to the title in a second. You also include written by or screenplay by. You might choose to include story by. Here's the difference. If you've written out something of like an outline or something like that, and maybe you did that with a friend of yours, okay, so it's you and Sally, okay, so you and Sally came up with the idea, you wrote some things down, both of you have story by credit. Okay, so story by Sally and you. If in the case of Sally and you've co-written a story by, but you wrote the screenplay, well, now it's just story by you and Sally, screenplay by you. If though, it's just you. So you thought up the whole thing, you wrote the whole thing. Okay, now you just have written by or screenplay by. Now there's one little punctuation thing that is important and then some kind of good practice here. The punctuation thing is the word and or an ampersand. So you can have the and the ampersand, and they mean different things. The and means that the first person listed worked on it first, and then you took that and you worked on it separate. So it's kind of like if there's a written by credit and it's so-and-so and so-and-so, it means this person wrote a screenplay first, wrote this version first, then you got a draft and you rewrote and revised the draft, so now your name is second. So it's their name and your name. But let's say you and Sally wrote the screenplay together. In that case, you're sharing credit, and in that sense, you would use the ampersand. The ampersand means the writers on either side of it or associated with it have equal share. If it's the and, they may or may not have equal share. And you'll see this in credits a lot of movies where you have this writer and the word and then these two writers and they're an ampersand and then another and written out and somebody else. That means this person wrote the original, these two people wrote a draft, and then this other person wrote a draft, and it was decided that they would all get credited in this way. And the Writers Guild is the one who determines the credits ultimately. So you can put that on your title, but it does go through some vetting process in case somebody starts griping or complaining about it. But generally, it's just and. The word and is not partners. The ampersand is partners. So if you're working with a partner, use the ampersand. You also need some contact information. This always goes at the bottom of the page because you want, when people see your title page, title, who wrote it, and then at the bottom is some contact information. Often an email is plenty good. If you have representation, they'll either create a unique title page that they use to then send the script out, or they'll give you information to include on the title page depending on who you're working with. For the most part, everything should be in Courier font or whatever typeface you are using for your screenplay. It should look uniform throughout. So the written by or screenplay by, and it doesn't really matter which one you want to do, your name and then the contact information below, that's the same typeface as what's in the rest of the screenplay. Now what you should not do, because this just screams newbie, is put your registration number or anything like that on the title page. So your copyright number, if you register it through the WGA, which is kind of a different type of registration, don't put that on there. You just don't include that. That just screams noob. All you need is the title, your name, contact information, move on. You might also think you should include a date, but Don't do that. The problem is if you include a date and people start sharing it and then it gets put in a drawer and then it comes out and then people are like, oh, this is old, I don't even want to read it. Putting a date on your title page just dates it. So generally you just don't include a date. So if you're thinking about including some other kind of information on your title page, refrain from doing it. All you need, title, your name, contact information, that's it. Done. Okay, here's a couple of optional things you can do with your title page though, if you want to do. One thing that is kind of become a little more common, especially because scripts are shared as PDFs and not as actual like printed things, is writers will often format the title in a specific way. So you might choose a different typeface, a larger font size, or bold, or something like that, or italicized, or some other thing. So you can do things like that. Everything else is going to still be in Courier, but the title itself, if you want to make it a little bigger, if you want to embellish the font or typeface in some way, you generally can get away with that, and people don't really frown on that, especially if it suits the tone of your story. And if you start to mess with the title and the formatting of it using different typefaces and things like that, then you should make sure that whatever typeface you're using matches the tone of what you're going for. This also applies to graphics. So some people have started to include graphics in their title, or to make their title page a little bit more graphical or designed a little bit. And for the most part, this is fine. One of the things that you're really trying to do is you're just trying to say like, hey, I'm playing within the rules, but I can kind of break them a little bit. And that is helpful if you're using different kind of typefaces and different kind of images. If though you include an image, and this is a really important part, if you include an image, it should be a high quality image. It should not be something you sketched on a napkin or just kind of drew with your mouse and like Google Slides and printed it. Like, no, don't do that. Do something that is professional or don't include it. It should look high quality, high value, put that on there. If it doesn't do that, don't include it. Occasionally, I've seen people submit scripts with a colored front page. So maybe the design of the front page, maybe they color the page and they have a different typeface and things for because it suits their title or whatever. That's like, that's a borderline. That's a maybe. I would say as a new writer, probably not do that. Once you kind of have sold a couple, now you can kind of branch out because now you kind of have a brand and you can do that. Generally though, probably not a good idea, but I have seen it and it doesn't cause somebody to kick your script. The things what you don't want to do is just make sure that your script is not being kicked for some stupid reason. Okay, if it looks good, if it matches the tone and it shows like, hey, this is going to be a fun read, okay, that's fine. But if the typefaces are all wrong throughout, you're not using Courier for your other ones or things like that, okay, now you're like, well, I don't know if I'm going to always play within the rules, and that automatically sets the reader on edge of like, this is probably going to be bad. And that's not what you want. You want to put a good foot forward. That's the first thing they're seeing, so let it be a good image. Let your title page just be clean. If you're going to incorporate an image, it should be professional. If you want to use a different typeface or font style for your title, that's fine. If you don't, that's also perfectly fine. Make sure you have your title. Make sure you have who it's written by. Make sure you have some contact information. That's all you need on a title page. Hopefully this has been helpful to you. If it has, please like, subscribe, bell, all that stuff. I do appreciate it. If you have a comment or a specific question like, should I do this? Can I do this? Leave it in the comments below. We'll wrestle with that. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. And when you go to tell a story that matters. See you later.